Hi, American Studies, Miss Hammond here. Today we're going to be talking about commas. I know it's everybody's favorite piece of grammar, so we are going to review what they look like, how they're used. Some people probably have experience with grammar, and you might not have to watch this video more than once, but for people who don't know how to use commas in the right way, I'm hoping this will be a great little tool for you. Alright, so let me just give you some background about commas. For people who really haven't had any grammar instruction, you might not even know what a comma looks like. It looks like a cute little shrimp floating in a sea. I like commas. I think they're very cute to look at. Unfortunately, they're kind of a difficult piece of grammar to learn how to use perfectly. So, go ahead, draw a picture of the comma, maybe even put a little smiley face in there. Oh, cute little shrimp. Alright, let's chat about a comma's purpose. The purpose of the comma is to give your reader a break. If somebody's reading out loud, they might need a verbal break to actually take a breath. If they're reading in their head, they might need a mental break just to kind of resituate their thoughts, get settled, and come back to the reading. Commas allow that. There are a lot of things that can go wrong with commas, though. If you have too many commas, it gets really confusing. It's hard to know, when do I take a breath? When do I take a break? For your reader, it might be really frustrating. The other thing that can go wrong is that there's too few commas. In our last podcast, I gave you an example of a paragraph with no punctuation at all, and commas, because they allow you a chance to breathe or pause. If you don't have them, it becomes really, really frustrating. So, one of the issues with commas is that there are so many rules. There are just so many rules, and for every rule, it seems like there's just an exception for that one. So I know it's really frustrating. The reality is, though, if you don't know how to use commas, you're not going to have the same ability to write as somebody who knows how. You need to get them in order to have a higher skill level and just be taken seriously. So, I understand that there's a lot of rules and a lot of exceptions. I'm hoping that you can just hang on. We'll learn, we'll practice together. I get it. One of the things that I want to talk about is that many of these rules can be summed up into 4 main categories. So that's what I'm going to ask you to learn today. Not all of the little rules and all the exceptions, but just 4 main ones. So on your note-taking guide, go ahead and fill in the 4 main rules. You'll get an opportunity to write down some examples and practice. So I'm hoping that this will be as painless as possible. All right. So our first comma rule is this. Always use a comma before the words below, if they're the start of a new clause. Well, I already know that some people are wondering, what the heck is a clause? What are you even talking about? Is it Santa? What's happening? A clause is a self-contained thought with a noun and a verb. So, if you are starting a new little thought in your sentence, and it contains these words, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so, then you need to include a comma. So the rule is always use a comma before the words below if they're the start of a new clause. I'll show you some examples. I heard you accidentally slipped into a fountain at prom, comma, so your dress was ruined. That could either be really mean or really nice. You get to pick. I enjoyed eating dinner with your family, comma, but I want to go home now, because they're crazy. So, I want you to take a look at these sentences. The comma is right before the so and the but, which are in front of a clause. I want to go home now is its own little clause. It has a noun and a verb. I want. In front of the top sentence, you have a comma, so your dress was ruined. That is a clause. Your dress was ruined. It's an independent thought. A lot of these just take practice. You'll need to just work with being able to identify them. But the more practice that you get, the easier it'll become. Okay? Let's move on to comma rule 2. So comma rule 2 is always use commas to separate words in a list. I'll give you some examples. We love going to the zoo and seeing parrots, tigers, lions, and turtles. That list is what you love seeing at the zoo. We hate playing baseball, basketball, or soccer. So that's a list of things that you hate doing. What I want you to notice is that there's even a comma before that second to last word. So before and or, there's also a comma. Anytime in a list, use that comma to separate those words. Makes it easier to read the list and keep track of all of the elements of that list. Comma rule 3. Always use commas to add additional thoughts in the middle of a sentence. So those are like the little things that we insert to make our sentences more interesting. I'll give you an example. I'm going to use my best Irish accent here. Oh, me mother, bless her soul, was the best Irish dancer in Belfast. So in that bless your soul part, you're separating that. We don't really need that bless her soul. We're just putting it in there. So that comma has to say, all right, take a break here. This is something that the author is adding. It's not necessarily part of the content. We're just adding it in for emphasis. Give you a second example. That dog, the one with the 3 legs, just chased a rabbit across the living room. The one with the 3 legs, that little section is giving us more information. So use that comma to just break that apart and make it easier to tell where the author is adding extra information. Make sense? All right, let's move on to comma rule 3. And my apologies for that Irish accent. I just like doing accents, I won't lie. All right, so comma rule 4. Always use commas when one idea in a sentence conflicts with another. So I'll give you some examples here. Although that man is generous, he is crabby. So we're saying 2 different things in that sentence. Although he is blank, he is also blank. If you're going to conflict ideas, a comma gives the reader a little mental pause to be able to reconcile the 2 differences there. I'll give you another example. I love sharing clothes with my friends, but not with my sister. So we're looking at 2 different situations here. We enjoy one thing, we don't like another thing. And for people who have had to share clothes with their sister, it usually doesn't work out well. They come back with stains and holes. So don't share clothes with a sister. All right, so I want to just give you some final thoughts. I've given you 4 rules on commas, and trust me, this is just the tip of the iceberg. But the important thing to remember is that commas get more and more easy to work with the more that you read and the more that you write. So if you can just practice and continue to work with commas, think about how you're using them, it's going to get easier for you. And one of my final thoughts is that all the rules for commas, people don't even know all of them. A lot of them just become instinctual. So that's why it's so frustrating. That's why it's such a terrible little piece of grammar, because you kind of have to start to learn your own judgment. Use your own judgment in your writing. For example, if you're writing and you want to give your reader a little break, a mental pause, that is up to you. You're the writer. You have that license to do that. You can make the choices. So that's either very frustrating or freeing for people. And I thought that you guys should have an opportunity to vent. So at the bottom of your page, if you need to get it out, if you need to complain, complain here. All right. Very cool. Well, if you need to watch the video again, you're welcome to. If you have any questions for Miss Hammond, come check in with me. Hope you enjoyed.